Right. Glorious Sunday to everyone out there. So, well, I started the stream at 11:11. Beautiful divine synchronicity. So, this is the first live video as promised that I'm going to make in regards to No Nut, Yes Vitality November, this beautiful month-long challenge that a lot of men are taking on in their lives because November is Men's Health Awareness Month. And I'm really glad that this month exists. Uh, and I'm really glad that men get to, dive deeper into their healing this month. And that those who support men, women, other beings, this is also a time to encourage and enthuse that support because men are starting to really do the work and they're really answering the call. A lot of the women who've been really calling for men to step into their noble power increasingly. And it's an amazing, exciting time. And when I put out this notion that I was going to commit to No Nut, Yes Vitality, November, I was really warmed to see all the men step up and also make that commitment, that devotion really to themselves. And it's been carrying on throughout the last 3 days since November started. I'm also part of a men's circle here in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, where I primarily live. And we've been doing a lot of work in the last 2 or 3 sessions. We meet bi-weekly on sexuality with men. And I did a beautiful teaching on sacred sexuality with some practices recently. And in our last men's circle last week, I really presented, that this is happening this month where we can take on this challenge as men and make a big commitment to our vitality. So today in this video, and I said that I would release a bunch of live videos in this month to offer support. So this is the first video of said support. And this video is going to be just setting the context of why men are retaining, their semen for a whole month. What's that all about? And, this video is not just for men, it's also for women too. One of the most beautiful things that I've experienced running, men's circles for many years and had the beautiful occasion to also intermingle men and women's circles and do this kind of reunion work is that men and women do have some big, immense differences. And those differences, when we get curious about each other's differences, it's a way to really honor each other. Subsequently, a lot of men are starting to realize that to really love and understand women, we have to really honor that they have this beautiful moon cycle, this Mensi cycle. It once a month, very fast cyclical, changing alchemical processes that women go through. And for a lot of men, when women go through these processes, can kind of be like even a bit scary, like what's going on? She's just transforming all the time. But when you start to get interested and inquire about, your friends or your, of course, an intimate partnership, this is very advantageous. You can start to inquire about that cycle and really start to come into alignment with it. That's very profound. And likewise for men, we have the seed, the sperm, the semen, as women have the ova, and it's really beautiful to get curious about these things. So I think this is also going to be interesting for women to know about what is semen retention. And of course, if you're in a partnership as a man and you're doing this work for the next month, it's really good for your partner to know what you're doing. So you could like show this video, for example, just so she has the context of how to support you because you're going to need that support, especially if you're having a lot of sex with your partner and making love and you want to retain your semen, which is entirely possible, then yes. So I'm also going to be activating a private group today for any of the men who just want to come in and mutually support and share each other, has some really beautiful honoring accountability as well. And I'm probably gonna pin this video at the top so people can rewatch it. And but just so the men know, you don't have to join that group, but there will be some beautiful sharings in there. But all the lives I'm going to be doing this month, because I really feel called to do a lot of lives, I'll be sharing them all publicly, in live streams here and on Instagram, and then I'll just be reposting them into the group so it can all be consolidated. So, with all that being said, uh, let's dive in. So, no nut, yes vitality, November. What is this all about? Now, the first time I ever experienced practicing semen retention myself was back in probably 2004, like 20 years ago. I had had a spiritual awakening in 2003. I got very interested in sacred sexuality and tantra. I had a lot of wounding around my sexuality, so that's why those parts of mysticism, sexual tantra and stuff became very captivating to me. And I was following some very, disciplined Gnostic teachings from this Colombian teacher called Samuel Ovar, who passed away, I think, in the 1980s. And he has a lot of teachings on sacred sexuality in the spiritual context. So I went for about a month and a half. At some point, I challenged myself to retain my semen. And that month and a half was one of the peak spiritual experiences of my life. I found myself not only incredibly vital and filled with energy, but it was almost like metaphysical evolutions were taking place on the level of my consciousness, on my soul. It was awe-inspiring. And since then, I've been pretty much practicing periodic retention. So not retaining forever, but sometimes retaining for a month, sometimes for a week or 2 weeks. But long are the days, when I had no idea about this, when I was just losing my semen every single day, which, you know, as a teenager, maybe I can't remember exactly, but when we're filled with all that yang, vigorous energy, we tend to get in a lot of unhealthy behaviors when it comes to retaining semen. So what is this all about? Why did that month and a half, and why does it happen that when people retain their semen, when men retain their semen, why do they feel these beautiful, powerful transformations? So I used to practice Chinese medicine, and I've become fairly well versed in Taoism, which is the kind of Oriental mystical philosophy foundation that pretty much influences Chinese medicine. And Taoism has some beautiful context for us to really see why this work is so important. So, in the human being, there is a substance called the Jing. This is a Chinese word, and it translates as the essence. I sort of see this as kind of like the fuel of the soul or the blood of the soul. And it is said when your Jing is done, it's a limited resource, you are done. You die. The physical vessel can no longer sustain itself. Jing expresses in men and women as semen in men and ova in women. Jing is said to correlate to our genetic resource, our DNA, our potential as well, because we know with DNA, probably only about 10% of our strand is actually activated, and then there's all this 90% sort of latent DNA waiting to be activated. So this Jing is said to be one of the most foundational energies in the body. It's said to be stored in the kidneys in both men and women. So Jing is is that essential fuel in the body. Now, women have a bit more of an advantage than men with this regard because their ova, when they come to age and they start to bleed, their ova cycles once a month with the moon. So they don't have to do anything to that cycle per se. It just happens naturally. Men, on the other hand, men can sit around all day having lots of ejaculation and just losing tons of this essence, this jing, which can be very dangerous and it leaves men very vulnerable. So retaining our semen is very important, and the Taoists talk a lot about this. They even have a whole clock set up for your age group to show you how many times you should be ejaculating each month to maintain, vigorous health your whole life. But of course, it's always encouraged to retain even longer if you can, because all of that is just money in the bank. So the Jing, I will say, and another really profound thing about the Jing is one of my favorite adages or proverbs in Chinese medicine is virtue is the essence. So the Jing creates virtue in some capacity. This is like one of the deepest teachings in Taoism. The Jing, the essence, endows us with this quality of virtue. And what is virtue? So in Taoism, they call virtue the marvelous impulses that we express, such as benevolence, kindness, love, reflection, calmness, trust, openness. These are the marvelous impulses. They correlate to the number one in Taoist numerology, which correlates to source energy. So it's really also deeper teaching here that the source of our reality is something very virtuous. And this is why when we retain our semen, this jing gets charged. It starts to accumulate more than being lost, and it charges, and we suddenly find ourselves endowed with naturally just more virtuousness. This is something that I see time and time again with men who have done this work. One of the most constant things that men share is that they feel more integrous, they feel more vital, they just feel more noble, more better about themselves. I would dare say to go on a limb that this semen retention work is so foundational for men because I don't really believe we fully feel like men until we've retained our semen for like a month. Because the beautiful energizing of our yang energy and our yin, particularly the energizing of our being, is so empowering that men, maybe for the first time ever, start to feel this like really conscious and beautiful masculine energy in them, rather than the kind of normalized sort of, oh, thanks, Maria and Nico. Glad to have you guys here. The normalized kind of sensibility that men feel is just kind of this constant low grade energy, moodiness, closed, cloistered in, exasperated, in the doldrums. And this kind of grimness that slowly overtakes a man is very directly related to their relationship with their ejaculation rhythm. It's not like the ultimate magic bullet, but it's truly a magical elixir to bring into your life. And the most beautiful thing is you won't find out unless you do it yourself. And that's why we want to have this group as well to share our wins, and you'll start to feel even within a few days, it can be really fast. You just start to feel this beauty inside of you because virtue is a beautiful feeling. It feels beautiful to feel good and to feel not just like pleasurably good, but to feel like the goodness of your soul, because, and look, I've had lots of dark dealings with things like pornography and addiction and the shame and the low vibe of energy that comes with those things. You don't feel good. You don't feel like a good being, you know? You feel kind of wretched, right? So when you retain this energy, you start to bring online this kind of feeling of one of my favorite words, magnanimity, which is great soulness. And this is just something that naturally happens. That's the best part. The Taoists were so clear on this. They called it Wu Wei. They say you don't have to do anything. You just have to let nature do. And this magnificent process takes place. So, for those men who are like, man, a month, I've never retained for longer than a couple days, and you're really freaked out, like, how am I going to do this? Let me tell you, you can do this. Every man has this beautiful warrior archetype inside of them that loves discipline, that loves a good challenge. And it may take a day or two to just get through like the kind of franticness, maybe of like the old behavior dying and asking, to be kept alive. But there is this like really beautiful fiery energy in all men. I've seen it in all men. And that will start to come online. It actually cannot come online often, the warrior, until a good challenge takes place. Then the warrior stands up and says, all right, time to test myself and give my soul a little flex. So this is Challenges like this are really like a good tonic for our masculinity. And that's something just to remember in life in general. You know, if you're ever feeling like not very vital, not very connected with your masculinity, go lift some weight, do a few push-ups. Like the minute you challenge yourself, it's like this responsiveness just immediately kicks in. It's very, very profound. So you can do it. Just know you can do this. This is not some kind of superhuman thing. It might seem that way at the beginning, but you can totally do this. And it's gonna feel fucking amazing. Let me tell you, it will change your life. One of the men commented like, "Hey, I first did this retention thing years ago, and it literally just that month changed my life. It's that powerful." So you can definitely do it. Now, let's get into like some of the concerns, because I know a lot of men are like, "Well, geez, am I gonna get blue balls? Like, am I supposed to have no sex, no masturbation, no self-pleasuring? Like, what am I supposed to do with myself for this next month?" So, couple things. You definitely need to start bringing in probably some new practices, unless you have practices in your life like stretching, yoga, meditation. I'm going to teach you some of the sexual alchemical stuff today, and I'll be doing that throughout the month. Uh, unless you have those practices already set up in your life, and even if they are set up in your life, you're probably going to be directing them in a different way. You need to definitely have some of these practices. In general, you're just going to need some practices to relax a lot more and to stretch out the body. So, stretching on the daily is very powerful. I will also say shaking medicine, shaking the body is very powerful. I'm going to share a video link in the group for the men to the five Tibetans, which are these apparently ancient rejuvenation rites. They're five poses. They're all dynamic and moving, very simple to do. You can do this. You do 5 sets of 21 repetitions of each exercise. It can be done really fast in like 10 minutes. It's my go-to, especially when I'm on the road. It's so beautiful and just infuses the body. It flushes all the energy, any of the stagnant energy. Because you may start to find around your genitals and your cock, you're going to have like a lot of like, it might feel like a lot of stuck sexual energy. So you're going to want to circulate that. You're going to want to do practices like the microcosmic orbit, um, even just dancing, anything that just moves the body. But you're also gonna maybe want to do like, oh yeah, Nico in it. Yeah, the five Tibetan rites. It's so good. And Hannah, great to see you here from Ibiza. Uh, you just want to make sure in the next month, and maybe make a list. What are some lists of like self-nourishing practices that you can do, on the daily? Taking walks in nature, listening to things like classical music. Music's gonna really bring calmness to you. Maybe book a weekly massage for yourself. I mean, really take this next level. This is a it is a big thing. It is a big thing to retain semen, and you want to make sure you're going to be successful, right? So, make a list and start to implement some practices. I've already started doing some of these things. I pretty much live in these practices anyways, but I'm ramping some of them up for sure because it's so needed. Now, if you are in a partnership, one of the men asks, like, what do I do if I'm partnership? Because if we start, we're making love, and after like 3 days, like I can retain for a couple of sessions, but then I gotta go. That is a whole other advanced practice. What I would recommend for men in that department is to read a book by Michael Richardson called Meditation for Men. Tantric Meditation for Men by Michael Richardson, and also The Multi-Orgasmic Man by Mantak Chia. Yeah, get these books in your life. They are very important. They will tell you how to work with circulating the energy with your partner. Um, I have some beautiful teachings on sacred sexuality on my YouTube channel that you can find as well. It's more than possible. But again, it takes an element of management of this energy, especially after you've made love. After you've made love, you can always feel free to stand up, tell your partner, hey, I'm retaining this for the next month. You can give your body a good shake. You can just move the energy around, put your hands on your genitals. Imagine sweeping the energy around your body, doing the microcosmic orbit, which I'll teach later on in this. Do these practices like after you have sex for 5, 10, 15 minutes. You can ask your partner. I mean, if she's down, because this is going to be an amazing amplifier of your love making, of your attractiveness. As I like to say, virtue is the best cologne. If she can give you like a massage and help spread the energy, if she has the energy to do that, amazing. So it's just about looking at this like you're making love, you're charging up this energy, and then you just want to dissipate it energetically, not through ejaculation afterwards. And it might mean you have a slower version of sex. It might mean you change and start to bring in more tantra into the sex life, which is really just extending, the foreplay, massaging each other, meditating, having coitus, and then once the coital act is done, a lot of people may feel tired, but you'll feel more energized if you haven't ejaculated. Then, like, make sure you have like a nice tying things up. Like, you can meditate again. You can sit facing each other and circulate your sexual energy in the grander microcosmic orbit, working with your polarities. Very, very profound. So there's lots of things that you can do. Um, and it can be really cool because when you've made love and you've generated all this energy in your genitals, this genital play, it's very profound, the energy that can be shared between each other. So there's that as well. So should you be masturbating? Should you be looking at porn over the next month? Now that's entirely up to you. I still self-pleasure. I definitely bring down the frequency when I'm doing semen retention. I make sure it's very mindful. It's very slow. Just remember this beautiful teaching from Osho. Anytime you make love to another person or yourself, always start with the intention, go into your heart and say, this is going to be a practice of making love, even to yourself. And that tends to like cool down some of the fires of lust. We want to be making love here, not making lust. But it's entirely up to you. I would just say if you have a self-pleasuring practice, make sure you do it very slow and meditative and really spend the time. Don't be like, I've got 5 minutes between tasks. I'm just gonna go jerk off. I would start setting times where you have like at least 30 minutes to really explore and make love to yourself. Use beautiful oils, put on music, and really play with this energy. One of the most simple things you can do, it's called the big draw. And you can do it with me here, and this can be for men and women is just breathe in the energy up from your phallus or your genitals and into your heart. Simple as that. And you can just do that for minutes. Do it for 10 rounds. You can add the lifting of the pelvic floor muscles even, which in men will give the prostrate a little squeeze and bring it up into the heart and releasing anytime. And you can do that while you're working, just bring in this conscious breathing. Just anytime you feel that kind of lust and you want to go and like you know have an exploration with yourself, but you want to maybe not self pleasure this month, if that's really your goal. But even if you are choosing self pleasure and you just want to keep the temperature of that sexual energy down a little and transmute it, just that transmutation breath, just breathing in from the genitals. So after you've self pleasured, after you've made love, you want to do that for at least 10 rounds, if not 5 minutes. Just drawing that energy up into the heart. You can even draw it all the way up into the head. You can retain the breath. Really hold that pelvic floor muscle and shoot it up. We'll do a little more direct practice at the end. That's another beautiful, beautiful thing you can do. So, oh, Maria, I massage my partner's testicles after lovemaking to help move it and guide that built up sexual energy up toward his third eye, as we call it. So beautiful. Nice. Thank you. You're such a blessed woman. That is the support that we can give each other. It's very important to really this practice really teaches you how to be tender with the vessel. This mystical biological vessel called the body is so beautiful. It's an inner alchemical transformational vessel. It's very, very profound. So some of you may just choose, you know what? I'm gonna like stack on this month. No porn, no masturbation. Awesome, go for it. If you have your practices, your self-nourishing practices, it's going to be challenging in a good way and you can do it and totally go for it. And that might be the best default to do it with because then you won't have to deal with any of that stuff. If you do choose to still, self-pleasure, I would say if you can, this is a great opportunity to break the porn cycle because when you look at porn, it tends to bring more of that hot heat, lust energy in. Whereas if you're just using your mind to visualize, it keeps the temperature a little more cooler and you can make it more about making love rather than making lust. Just something that I've observed in my own self. So that's something to bear in mind. Another thing is that when you're doing this, you are going to have a lot more energy. It's going to be amazing. Your creativity will be so emboldened. Just in the last, week, because I've been retaining leading up to this, I have accomplished so freaking much. Even last night, it was like 11 at night, and I was like, it's time for bed. I'm like, no, I want to put up my newsletter. I was just still filled with all this incredible energy and the amount of creative stuff that I've done the last week. That's where you start to feel like, whoa, I feel like superhuman. I feel like the best version of myself because sexual energy and creative energy is very connected. So this is an amazing month to also get your creative purposing going. Like put some big projects in front of you, that you can really take on, because you're going to have a lot more energy to emanate into them. Really, really profound. And then after the month is over, you can celebrate, you can choose to have an ejaculation, but this may set a tone then for the rest of your life because really semen retention, when it comes down to it, it's a lifestyle. It's a total shift. When I first did that long retention when I was 23, that changed forever the frequencies of my ejaculations. No longer was it something that I was victimized by. I always was in discipline with it. Sure, I've had a few slips over the years. I'm not going to say I was impeccable, but it changed the game in terms of making it a lot more intentional. I have control over this. I'm going to release when I want to release. I'm not going to feel victimized, addicted to this. And that's a very profound thing. When men start to come into that, as the Taoists call it, angelic control over themselves, that masterful control, and spirituality really is about self-mastery, you start to feel this incredible galvanization of your masculinity. Because this young energy, this like fiery dragon force, it wants to be tamed, it wants to be guided, it wants to be masterfully ruled over by your beautiful will, by your beautiful soul power. Um, and so that's a very beautiful thing. And then women, your partners, your beloveds, they are going to feel so much more trust and attraction and love to you because when a man has their shit together and they can really control something as like crazy and voluptuous as their sexual energy, it shows that this man's got like he can be very strong and disciplined and warrior, and that's a beautiful thing. And as the man starts to naturally become more virtuous, as I always say, and let that be one of your proverbs, virtue is the best cologne. Women love that in men more than anything else. The virtue of the masculine soul is super sexy. It's super attractive because it's our nobility. It's our like king archetype coming online. The king, for it to truly come online, it really needs this jing. It really needs this energy. Few final thoughts here before we do a quick practice is if you join the group or just join the commitment in general and you fail, I say that in quotations because there is no failure in this, okay? If you have a slip or whatever and you do ejaculate, honor it. It's beautiful. Ejaculation is beautiful in itself. It's a beautiful surrender to that orgasmic state. Don't see it as like, oh, fuck, I fucked up, shame yourself. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the relaxation that comes after it. Definitely like sit with it. Every time you do ejaculate, you should definitely spend time in the yin of it because you go right from yang to yin. And then just get back on that horse, and don't violently push yourself back on the horse. Just calmly get back there and say, okay, cool. Had an ejaculation. That's great. I'm back in. I'm back in. Maybe this month you just bring down your frequency of ejaculation. So there's no failure. And it's really good though to get aware of like the why. Okay, why did that happen? Why did I give it an ejaculation? What happened? Was it like I was just self-pleasuring and then I went too vigorous at some point and just lost control? Or was there a clear kind of like, fuck this, I'm just going to go for it? It's always good to inquire about that as well. I think that's about it in terms of intellectual stuff. So I'm going to share just quickly a few practices. These can be for men or women. So I'm sitting, but I'm just going to do a little shake with everyone. So just to give you a tip, like I wake up every morning and the first thing that I do is I have lemon water and then I put on some music. I go into like SoundCloud, just look on my stream, pick a random song that looks good, something like dancey and has a pulse. And I shake my body for 3 minutes while making cathartic breath sounds. And that is an amazing way just to vitalize your body and also dissipate any static energy. You might feel achy because you've been sleeping all night and your body's just been in the static posture. And that goes for any time you feel like this, like, oh, sexual tension inside of you. Because your body's also, let me tell you, your body is built for semen retention. Like, it will start to naturally expand its inner channels to hold all more of this energy, to become one of my favorite words, to become more capacious, more capacity. But, we can help that process by doing things like shaking medicine, which is so great at dissipating. But while you're shaking, you're also growing that capaciousness because you're starting to feel this vitality rush through you. So we're just going to shake here. You can join me if you want, or if you just want to watch me be kind of shaking guy. Okay, like I'm sitting down, but usually I'll be standing. But just giving your body a vigorous shake. We're just going to go for a minute here. Just put on some music. Shake the face. Make sure if you're a man, like shake your hips back and forth for a good minute. That's a really good practice as well. Shake, 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 shake the body. And be with your breath. Some fiery breaths. If you really want to bring in some of that masculine warrior here, this is great. You can start to lions roar, roar. Let some of them out. Get really into this like testosterone boost of your masculine fire, your yang. Shaking the body, so good at dissipating. You can start to energetically like clear energy from the body, from your groin, if you're feeling a lot of stuck energy there. Great way to dissipate energy. You can be doing this like multiple times a day as you're doing this retention practice. Okay, and slowing down. We've just hit a minute. And lots of deep breathing. So it's a great practice. Dancing, just put on some music. Take breaks from work. You want to just keep your body nice and ripe and fresh as this month goes on. It's really, really profound. Next thing we'll do is, well, the next thing I do in the morning is squeezing your testicles is a sexual qigong practice. Now, you're supposed to squeeze them for your age. So I'm 45, so that's 45 just squeezing of the testicles. This is good for testicular health. You don't have to like, squeeze and torture yourself, but just give them a little squeeze 45 times. And then the next thing I do 45 times is I just give my butt some glute squeezes. And that just like dissipates energy near the root chakra as well. That can be really, really powerful. Now, let's do a bit more of this like big draw energy, and then we'll move from that into the microcosmic orbit, or this transmutation breath, rather. So this can be men or women, but just breathing in from your genitals. Imagine on the inhale, you're breathing that energy all the way up into the heart. And let out a nice pleasurable sigh. It doesn't mean we're denying pleasure this month. Oh. Ooh, just two. Just bring that like yumminess. And you can start to flex your pelvic floor here while you're doing this. Ah. So these are, oh, thanks, Charlie. These are beautiful practices to just transmute this energy. Now let's imagine we're bringing it up all the way to the head. You can retain the breath as you're squeezing the pelvic floor, bring it all the way up. You can visualize the energy shooting all the way up from your phallus, from your genitals, all the way up to that. And release. And again. My cute, humorous name for this practice is makes your body into a bong. Imagine you're just taking a bong hit from your phallus here. Shooting all the way up. It really starts to alter. You can feel it. Wow. Wow, I feel it. It's amazing. So the next like deluxe version of that is called the microcosmic orbit. So what you're going to do is you're going to start breathing in that energy, but this time imagine it's going up the back of the spine. Breathing all the way up to the top of the head, and as you exhale and sigh it out, imagine it's going down the front of your body, all the way down to your perineum. that area just between the anus and the genitals. And then you can pick it up there, shoot it all the way up, and so you're creating this orbiting wheel of energy. Ah. So doing that at least 10 times, if you want to set a timer, you can even do it for like 5 minutes in deep dives. That's a circulation practice. That starts to circulate this energy throughout the body because this is a big key this month. We want to be circulating this energy. So aside from that, I'm going to share once I get this group going. So for those of you who are on this live, and this will be recorded because you watch it later, I'm going to be launching this group today. No Nut, Yes Vitality November. So I'm going to pin this at the top of the group just to give people context for what we're doing. And there's little tip practices, but throughout the month, I'm going to be sharing more just practices where men can do this together. But they'll all be public, but they'll always be cross-posted to the group. The group is more to just have that beautiful encouragement, sharing, brotherhood, holding affectionate accountability. Um, yes. And this is really, in a way, this is about renewing this beautiful word chivalry, you know? In the ancient chivalric traditions of the Middle Ages, uh, men were said to really want to earn the love of women by showing their virtue. And I do believe in all my studies of all these different mystical traditions that this is speaking to this natural law that with women, with this jing, this essence of the soul, because it's timed once a month, I would dare say, go on a limb, that women tend to be a bit more virtuous naturally than men because they have this periodic release of their ova. Their jing is always in this kind of stability. Whereas with men, because they can just lose their jing and their semen, their essence, and they're vulnerable to that loss, uh, virtue is something that men have to cultivate a bit more. And I think women, rightfully so, in these chivalric traditions, they wanted to test men to make sure, I'm a virtuous, divine, beautiful woman. If I'm gonna have a partnership with you, you need to like show me some shit. Show me your virtue. You know. So this is also a beautiful opportunity for us to also like do this practice, of course, for yourself first, but we're also doing this for the women, to like reverse all the toxic masculine bullshit and to really bring this loving energy into our partnership, and realize, wow, this is really about making love. I'm doing these practices so that my love making can be stronger, longer, more beautiful as well. So another little context there. All right, it's already almost been 40 minutes. Long-winded Gemini here. I'm just gonna leave it there, guys. But thanks for those who've been with me on the live, and if you're watching this in recording, um, thank you for your presence, and I'm excited to be on this journey with the men. Really, just like so warmed when I put out the call. I'm just like, wow, men are ready for this. It's amazing. It's amazing. The conscious divine masculine is rising, is waking up in a beautiful way. So, as I like to say to all my brothers in the men's work communities and my Kings of the Heart containers, the Knights of Templar when they would these beautiful divine knights, spiritual warriors, when they would bid farewell to each other, they'd always be saying, "Be glorious." So, be glorious, my brothers, and I'll see you next time.